Well, I probably did something pretty crazy. I sold my EOS-R and my RF lens. And I'm going to tell you the reasons why I sold it. You may disagree with me. I found the body to be too small for my big fingers. I was constantly making mistakes with touching things and changing menus, and it didn't turn out so good. I also got frustrated with the cost of the lenses. When I see lenses at $2,500, $3,000, I'm like, I don't know who's buying those, but it definitely ain't going to be me. Every time I got close to buying one, I ended up having to pay something else to get myself out of the hole. And that's been a year. So the way I looked at it as, if I'm not able to buy any lenses for this camera, what's the point of having it? Now, a lot of people say, well, you use the attachment and you can run your EF lenses. That was also annoying. I would leave it on a lens, forget it, leave it somewhere. Sometimes, not always, sometimes when I had it on my 1x400 lens, it wouldn't focus. The autofocus didn't work. So then I would have to kind of help it, and I would focus a little bit with my hand. And then when I almost had the focus in, it would kick in and start focusing, almost like it had a delay. I did contact Canon, and they told me to get another one, or I could send it in to them. And I was like, boy, this cost never ends. It made me very frustrated. I'm actually recording on my 80D right now. And I was just very annoyed. I'm looking at a couple cameras. I'm looking at the Panasonic GH5, strictly for video. It just looks amazing for you able to do 4K 60 and many things. And I may just use that strictly for video. I'm looking at the Canon 5D Mark IV strictly for photos. And yeah, it's a DSLR. It's not a mirrorless. And I just didn't like the EOS-R mirrorless. I really didn't. I don't like how expensive the lenses are. I feel like I'm getting ripped off. You start looking at other cameras like Sony and other cameras like that. It just seems like they have a lot more than Canon offers. Canon just is always not giving people very much. It's very annoying. I love Canon for the ease of use and the color science and many things. But they're always lacking. And it seems like Canon really lacked when it came to these mirrorless cameras. I had somebody ask me, what do you think of the R6, the R5? I have no idea. The R5 is way out of my price range. The R6 is, I think that's around $2,500. That could be a possibility. But as soon as you need a lens, you might as well put your hands in your pocket or tie them behind your back. And if you're going to run a spacer, you know, that connection that allows you to run the EF lenses, the converter, well, that makes no sense. You might as well run a DSLR instead of a mirrorless camera, and you don't need that. You know how many times I had that thing on my lens and then I'd need it for a different lens and I'd be like, oh, where did I put that? And literally 20 minutes looking for it. So if oh yeah, I put it on that lens and back in my bag. It's just so frustrating. And then, of course, go buy 4 or 5 of them. You don't have that problem. You feel like you're putting Lego bricks together. But, no, the technology is out there to where I really think that depending on what you're doing, you don't need to get into these high-end cameras. Now, if, for example, you're into wedding photography or, you know, you're into sports or you're making money doing it, oh, then I can see it. Yes, go buy the R5, go have a good time, go buy the $3,000 lens and enjoy yourself. I mean, and that's it. But I use my 100x400 to video and to take pictures of animals. That's what I enjoy doing. And it didn't work right. It didn't work right at all. Let me give you an example. This is a Tascam D40. a lot of times I'll use this on top of my camera as my audio, and I can use an XLR input. I can use the same microphone I'm using right here and plug it into here. I can sync this up with my camera. Doesn't matter what camera I use. And I'll have audio in here and audio in my camera. And I'm going to show you guys how this works in a later video. I'm just waiting on a couple more pieces to really show you completely what you can do with this. But the Tascam DR40, you can buy these on eBay right now for around $50 if you really look. Yet there's another one called Tascam DR40X, which you can buy for $180. And everybody think, well, that's got to be better. It costs more. There's like 3 things that the X does that this doesn't do. One of them is it plugs into a USB port and you can use the microphones with your computer, if that's something you need. It's not something I need. So you could spend $200, $180, or you could spend $50 and get the great audio. And this actually connects to the camera too. So you end up with 2 audio files on here and 1 audio file on your camera. But my point is, technology has advanced so much over the last few years that you don't need to spend this outrageous money to get what you're looking for. But I've come to the conclusion that unless you buy one of Canon's so-called cinema cameras, you're really just not getting great video. It's okay. It's not great. And, well, look at the ADD. I'm sure there's probably a few things out of focus. Maybe my little army guy. And I could play with my manual settings some more to get that better. But, and I'm recording in 1080-30 is what I'm recording in. But when I took a look at Panasonic GH5s and I was watching some YouTube videos, they were gorgeous. I mean, just amazing what the 4K 60 does. So I'm very much thinking about picking up one of those with one lens and just simply, it'll never leave here. It'll always stay when I do tabletop reviews or I do videos. That'll simply be what it's used for and nothing else. And put it aside and the video will always look good. And then it's a matter of picking out, I'm back to square one, picking out a camera for photos. And I'm definitely leaning toward a Canon because I like Canon when it comes to that. But I'm not looking at a mirrorless. I don't think I don't think Canon is where they're supposed to be when it comes to mirrorless right now. I really don't. I mean, even I've heard some people say when you get in the R5, R6, they overheat and all this other stuff. It's almost like they're racing to try and catch up to Sony. And because of it, they're making mistakes. And it's too expensive to get into it. I mean, for the average guy. And what are you going to buy? One lens, one camera? That's it? So I'm not too impressed. If I want to do some vlogging, I could use my GoPro 8. That'll work just fine. But if I want to take some really nice photos, basically I need a full frame camera. The Canon 80D is a crop sensor. It crops in. It has worked for me. I love my Canon 80D. I mean, I've dropped it. It's been through the wilderness, through my pack. I mean, it's just crazy what it's been through. But I really want to get a full frame sensor so the pictures come out basically snapping a little bit better. And there's a couple of them I'm looking at. But I'm looking at the DSLRs. I'm not looking at the fancy mirrorless. Now, the EOS-R that I sold, they have an upgrade for stop motion video. And that's if you use Dragon Frame. And I do a little bit of that, just playing around. But for $100, you can send the EOS-R in, or if you bought it from them, they'll do an upgrade on it where it runs huge images for Dragon Frame. I think the EOS-R is more designed for stop motion than it is anything else. And that's what I'm kind of gathering from it. But with the amount, it's to me, it's just a hobby doing a little stop motion here and there. It's not something we're going to go all crazy and try and make some 2-hour movie. So I'm definitely leaning toward the Panasonic. And I'm probably going to end up purchasing another Canon, but it's going to use EF lenses and not this spacer or RF lenses. I can't afford the RF lenses. That's it. And when I got frustrated is when I seen Canon come out with those telescopic lenses that were f11. I have enough trouble with f4. Never mind f11. I mean, what am I going to do? Carry the sun on my back? It's like, they come out with a mirrorless camera, which is supposed to be smaller and lighter. And then they come out with a lens that's humongous. Okay, that should let in more light. But then they make a lens that's f11, and they say, well, we need to do that to make it cheaper. Well, I think you fucked up. Because, okay, push out a camera, it's $1,500. And that was the other thing. When I bought my EOS-R, I lost money. I mean, I bought it when it first came out. I was excited. And I just kept seeing it drop. I seen sales. And I was just like, wow, I paid $1,000 too much. And I'll never do that again. I mean, that was definitely a kick in the ass that I learned when some new camera comes out. Don't even buy it. Don't even jump on that bandwagon. I'd say wait 6 months to a year before you even think about it. Live and learn. But I'm definitely not going to run Canon's mirrorless. I don't think they're up to snuff. I really don't. I think Sony beats them there. But I like Canon because I like the menus, yada yada. I like everything else. So there's 2 cameras I'm looking at from Canon. Not sure which one I'm going to buy. But there are 2 older cameras I'm looking at. They are full frame. The one does not have a flip screen. The other one does. Sometimes I use the flip screen. Sometimes I don't. Could I get by without it? If I'm just taking photos, probably. So, a lot of things are changing with me using my cameras. And you think about this. I mean, Canon could very well be losing another customer because of this shit they're doing. They've been doing it for years. And the competition's out there with Sony and some of these other competitions to where, you know, they're cheaper, they do more. And you're finally starting to check some boxes thinking, well, you know, they just cripple everything all the time. You know, unless you got the money to go buy the $5,000-$6,000 camera, well, then you're not going to have that. But if you don't have the money to buy that $5,000 or $6,000 camera, then you're like, what's the point? And that's the sad part. So, I sold my EOS-R. And I don't regret it. I really don't. It just never did what it was supposed to do for me. Now, some other people say, oh, I love my EOS-R. Hey, great for you. Great. I'm glad you can afford those expensive lenses. I can't. And that's just the bottom line. So, like the Tascam, I'm definitely looking at buying tech a little older and then figuring out how I'm going to make it work with me. That's what I'm looking at. So basically, like getting the Panasonic, I mean, it looks like I can get one on eBay for $800, pick up a lens for $300, and basically I've got this $1,100 system set up, ready to do just video. That's it. I don't have to buy any more lenses, nothing. There it is. Boom, one lens, I'm good. Buy another Canon that I like, probably around the $1,200 mark. I use one off eBay again to run my 100 by 400 so I can take my full frame pictures with my lens. So I got a camera when I go out for video, and I got a camera strictly for pictures. I wouldn't be using the video part in Canon's camera because it just doesn't put out like it should. Now, if I'm zoomed in on an animal, I'll probably videotape a little bit about that. But it's looking like I need two or three cameras to do everything I want to do. No camera makes everything do what people need. And that's just something I'm coming to realize. You know, I used to see people in the forums, and I used to always see them been there saying, oh, I don't even know why Canon bothers putting video on them. I strictly use it for photography. I think those guys are on to something. You know, if Canon would have strictly made a mirrorless camera that did everything with photography, no video, they could make that camera smaller. But when you call it a mirrorless and then you put an anchor on the camera with these humongous lenses, I don't see what you did. I really don't. I mean, they're heavy. I thought the whole idea of going mirrorless was so things could get smaller and lighter. I must be seeing something different than everybody else sees. Maybe a lot of people see that big lens and say, oh, I'm taking in more light. I can get a much clearer picture. I don't know. I don't know at all. But you just go on the forums in Facebook and search Canon 80D, and you just watch those guys taking photos with those 80Ds, and they're gorgeous when they get sunsets in the perfect time. A lot of it is you. It's the craft of you. The art, you being the artist. You know, it's not about owning that $5,000 camera. Now, I think it helps. If you get the $5,000 camera, it gives you that little bit of an edge. But not at what they cost. Not at all. So my EOS-R is gone. Whoever got it got a good deal. And I'm now in the search. Like I said, I'm thinking Panasonic. I don't know. I'm now in the search of what I'm going to do next. Money's slow because of the pandemic. I think everybody's being hit by that. I had some people ask me, how come no videos in a long time? We weren't allowed to go anywhere. We were shut down. I mean, drove out of the driveway, you had somebody pull up behind you. I mean, what was I going to do? Make videos of my sewing machine? Or it's been a horrible year. It's been nuts. I did try to get out a couple times, and every time I did, when I went out, I had my camping equipment gear all set up, and when I woke up in the morning, it was pouring. Skies were black as dark. I was like, oh, this is great. So I could hang out there till the next day, hoping it would get a little bit brighter. Yeah, I packed it up and went home. But I do have some ideas, but I mean, I'm shooting off my Canon 80D right now, and I am shooting in manual mode. And I'm going to make a few videos coming up on the setup of using this Tascam and a few things so you can see what I'm talking about. But I can't believe I sold that thing. I really can't. I had it for a year, and every time I lost the connection thing for my EF lenses, I swear and curse, and you know, I almost dropped the camera twice. I never did, but I came close to dropping it twice. I've dropped my 80D 4 or 5 times on the concrete. Didn't even hurt it. Not at all. I broke one lens. I broke a cheap lens. I actually shattered it. But the camera still keeps going. The EOS-R really didn't feel like it was that robust to me. It really didn't. It had a couple things that were nice, you know, the full frame stuff and that, but having to pay $2,500 for a lens? No, just ain't happening. You can buy a lot more used EF lenses online than you can RF lenses because they're new. And even going into secondhand stores or going places, I have a better chance of getting lenses for my camera that are EF than RF. So anyhow, that's where I'm at. And EOS-R, I didn't like it. Maybe you guys do. Catch you guys on the next one.